With the run-up of home values the last 3 years, you're probably sitting on a ton of equity in your home. And now that the rate hikes have at least somewhat softened the market across the country, now may be the best time to start accessing that equity in order to build wealth in real estate. But there is one major risk about accessing that equity in your property that you need to know before getting started. Let's get to it. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. If you didn't already know, my name's Jay Costa. I'm a real estate investor, agent, and builder here in Northern New Jersey. And if you get value after watching this video, please smash that like button down below and also consider subscribing. We are building a tight-knit community here of like-minded individuals looking to build wealth in real estate. So if that interests you, definitely consider subscribing, hit that notification bell, as well as check out our newly created Discord server. I'll put a link in the description box down below. But in this video, I'm going to share with you what I think is the biggest risk that you take when accessing equity out of your property, and that is over leveraging. You hear so many TikTok real estate gurus out there that talk about low or no money down home loans. They talk about lines of credit, and they talk about cash out refinancing using the BRRRR method. And we've talked about all of these strategies on this channel as well. But I'm here today to just advise a little bit of caution before accessing that equity and finding yourself underwater on your property. So first, I'm going to go over what leverage is or what it means in real estate, why it can be so powerful in real estate. We'll go over the different ways that you can use to leverage your property. And lastly, we'll go over the risks and precautions that you need to take in order to avoid losing your home just in case the market goes south. So first, let's go over, explain, and define what leverage is in real estate. Leverage is very simply using the lender's money in order to take your down payment money and make it worth more. Let me explain and use an example. So let's say you go buy a property and the down payment on a rental property is 25%. When you go get a mortgage, you're leveraging that 25% and making it worth 4 times more than it would be just sitting in a bank. That is leverage. And this is one of the absolute biggest advantages that real estate investing has over different other sorts of investing like the stock market or something similar. And leverage can be super powerful in real estate in order to build wealth quickly. But you need to be smart when you leverage and take calculated risks and not just depend and rely on the market continuing to go up, because that's not always the case. And this is where you hear all those TikTok gurus out there telling you to leverage as much as you possibly can out of the property that you already own in order to go buy more property. This all works great in a good market to a great market that we were in. But what about in 5, 10, 15 years? Where are these guys going to be if the market turns south? Are they even going to still be around? You see, most of the real estate investors, the old school real estate investors that I know, are way more conservative and take way more calculated approaches to the risk that they're taking when leveraging their property. And I'm going to share some of what they've taught me or preached to me in this video. So how do you leverage your property? Well, there are many different ways to leverage the equity that you have in your property, but the two biggest ways, or the most popular ways, are cash out refinances as well as home equity lines of credit. A cash out refinance is when you go get a new mortgage to replace your old mortgage at a higher property valuation. And the difference between the new property valuation and the balance on the old mortgage is what you're able to cash out, give or take some closing costs and things like that. This is the best way, in my view, to access equity for a long-term rental because you're able to cash out the equity that you have in the property tax-free, which is very big, all while keeping a long-term fixed rate mortgage on the property. Perfect for long-term rentals. The second most popular way to access equity in a property is a line of credit, or a home equity line of credit, or a HELOC for short, we call it. A HELOC is a revolving credit line based on the equity that you have in the property, and it's basically like a credit card attached to the equity that you have. You could take it out and pay it off as you please. It's an interest-only loan for the first 10 years. After that, it turns into a more amortized principal and interest loan, and you could use it on whatever you want. Now, HELOCs are great because they provide flexibility, since you could take it out and pay it off as you please, as well as very quick access to capital if you need it. But HELOCs do have a variable interest rate, so they can and will change. So to me, they are perfect for short-term real estate investing, like a fix and flip project or something similar. So as you can see, leverage in real estate is not inherently bad. In fact, if you have a 30-year fixed rate mortgage on your home right now, you are leveraged. That is a form of leverage. So there's nothing, like I said, inherently wrong with it. But we need to be smart and not over leverage our property. So here's what I do to protect myself from over leveraging. First, when using a cash out refinance to access equity, I don't take all of the equity or the maximum amount of equity possible out at closing. Let's use an example. Let's say you bought a property for $500,000 5 years ago. And at the time you put 25% down, so that's $125,000 down payment at the time. Now, 5 years later, the market's gone up and you've paid down that balance a little bit. Now it's worth $700,000 and you paid it down to, let's say, $340,000. That means that you have $360,000 worth of equity in the property. Now, you could take all $360,000 out of the property and go put it into another property to buy. But what I do is, instead of taking all 360 out, I just take my original down payment of 125. And everyone has different risk tolerances. You could be somewhere in the middle. You could keep the 125 in there and take out the rest. But I only take the down payment out and leave the rest of the equity in the property. You may say that that's way too conservative and you'd rather have all of that $360,000 equity cash in hand to go buy another property ASAP. But the problem is, the more equity you take out of the property, the higher your new mortgage payment will be. So you're going to be cash flowing much less than you were before, if at all. Sometimes I've seen it happen where after the cash out refinance happens, you're actually coming out of pocket $100, $200 per month just to keep the property going. That's very possible. So definitely keep some of your equity in there in order to keep that mortgage payment low and keep that cash flow coming. And that way that you protect yourself in a down market. Because what happens in a down market? We may have forgotten, but here's what happens. The tenants all of a sudden may lose their job and they leave and your place is vacant. And now you can't find a tenant that paid as much as the last guy or girl. Or maybe the tenant wants to stay, but they try to renegotiate at the end of the lease saying, hey, I can't afford it. If this happens right after you do the cash out refinance, taking the max equity out, instead of breaking even or maybe even losing $100 or $200 a month, now maybe you're losing $500 or $600 per month just for the right to say that you own the property. Now, you may have the means to keep that going, and like everything in real estate, the longer you hold, the safer it'll be. But what if you don't have the means to keep it going? You may have to sell the property and you may even be underwater. And this is what happened, 15 years ago in 2008, 2009, where you had a bunch of foreclosures hitting the market. That's what happened, not so much with investments, but more primary residences that people had because they didn't keep equity in their home. Now, maybe when the mortgage rates are 2.5% to 3%, maybe you would strongly consider taking the full amount, max amount of equity that you possibly could. But what about in a down market? Let's say you take all of that money, that equity out of the property, and you take it to go put into another property, but both properties or neither properties cash flow anymore. So now you have two properties. Yay, that's great. But you have to come out of pocket just for the right to say that you own two properties. Now, of course, if you wait long enough, both will start cash flowing and both will go up in value. But in a bad market, you may be stuck with those properties for longer than you want it to be, coming out of pocket every month just in order to cover the costs and expenses. Now, when it comes to a HELOC, I protect myself in a much different way. First, I only use HELOCs on short-term real estate investing, like a fix and flip. Anything under 2 years, a HELOC is okay. Anything over 2 years, you may want to look into something with a fixed rate. You don't want to be holding a HELOC balance for longer than 2 years, in my view. But second, and even more importantly, I never take money out of a HELOC that I don't have the funds somewhere else to pay it back in a worst case scenario. So let's say I have a $200,000 HELOC. I take the $200,000 out of the HELOC to put towards some sort of short-term real estate investing project. I do not take that $200,000 unless I have $200,000 somewhere else in an asset that I can access if needed. Because you have to remember, a HELOC lender can call back that balance at any time that they want. So that $200,000 needs to be somewhere. It could be in stocks. It could be in another property that you may have to sell. But you need to protect yourself and have that $200,000 or whatever the number is in your situation where you could pay it off in a worst case scenario if the market goes bad or if a project goes bad. That happens as well. Because guess what? If something goes bad, the market, the project, whatever, and the HELOC lender calls back that balance and you don't have it, you're going to lose your home. It's going to be foreclosed. Now, if you liked this video, you will love my real estate investing custom playlist. I'll put a link in the description box down below, as well as up in the corner right here. So if that interests you, definitely check that out. But I appreciate you guys tuning in today. That is it for today. Let me know in the comment section, as well as the Discord server, what you think about my risk mitigation strategies, okay? Am I too conservative, or is using a HELOC or cash out refi or burn method too risky in general? I've heard both sides, to be honest with you, and it really depends on each person's risk tolerance, but this is where I'm at. Let me know if you agree or disagree in the comment section down below, and I will see you next time.